notes to?
I know. So yeah, I was going to say, Coach Shear, we start the timer. What's the goal to beat? 41 minutes. All right. 14 drives in the game. No, I ain't doing all that. But yes, no. So I didn't try to compete with. I'll compete with him in other areas, not that one.
So BYU, they've got a very balanced offense. They run the ball. Their quarterback runs the ball. He doesn't turn the ball over. Your impressions of that outfit?
Yeah, they do a phenomenal job, and they've done it for a long time. You know, they've had a sustained success there for years now, and so the culture there that, you know, you get a freshman quarterback coming in, he's stepping into a great culture, and that's what allows, you know, young players to have success when you have a great culture. And what they do is they use their players to the best of their ability. They have a good O-line that's physical, that moves people. They have an unbelievable running back who always falls forward. I mean, he's physical, wants to run through people, but is fast enough and elusive enough to make guys miss. And they got dynamic receivers on the outside with great tight ends. So it's going to be a great challenge for us because they're an up and down. You know, you look at teams, what's their strength? Shoot, they do everything really well. But shoot, we look at that, and that's why you play major college football, to play those great teams and to take on those challenges, because they still got to attack us as well. So we're really excited for it. We had a great practice today, being diligent in everything we do. So we're excited for it.
Justin and Brian?
So Josh, we just talked to Riley, and he referenced, you know, overcoming mental stuff. What was that time period like, for what you can't share? What was that like for him to go through that, and how do you think he became better for it?
Yeah, I think all the guys, you know, whatever it is, everybody in the room was so attacking everything that we did. And from the guys I think you got to see Chase Kennedy this week attack the way that he did, because that's the work that he's put in from January, February, March, all through the summer. So it's just exciting when anybody takes on a challenge and attacks it. Right, that's what you see from Tay Brown, the reason he's had success here. Max Harris is going to 4 different schools and now taking on this challenge coming here and is playing great football. You know, that's why you see Myron coming in as a freshman. He came in July and came in and attacked and got some opportunities to play. So for anybody, it's really exciting when people take on any challenge, and that's what has been fun in the room, where you have that competition and all the guys get to compete.
Brian and then Troy?
Bobby, I think there's 8 receivers that have gotten at least 50 snaps on offense, and maybe in past years there hasn't been that kind of depth here. You've taken advantage of it, but is there a point where you want to thin the rotation and just keep it to the best guys, or do you think this is a sustainable thing to constantly be changing the guys that are out there?
It will always be fluid. How they perform in practice determines, you know, their opportunity within the games. Naturally, when we're throwing the ball as much as we are, you want to be able to keep guys fresh. You want to be able to sustain a full year and have a really good room. But it's all just based off of how they perform each and every week in practice. And it'll forever be fluid, and it's like that. That's the only way you can really have true competition within the room. You know, they still need to show up on Tuesday and Wednesday and, you know, perform, and then that gives them their best opportunity on Saturday to play more, and it also gives them their best chance to be successful on Saturday. You know, I love that we have depth, but it's only as good as, you know, our weakest link, really, at the end of the day, because you just never know what happens, you know, with those guys as far as injuries and things like that. So they all need to be prepared to play.
Troy and then David.
2 quick questions for Bobby. One, Trace Spivey, you talked about yards after catch going into the year and how he's developed there. You saw it in the last game against Oklahoma State. And then just fixing things in terms of catching the ball, because in the previous games, I think you guys had 11 drops and seemed to get better against against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, that's always going to be an emphasis. You know, rack and yak yards is extremely important, you know, and it's just pretty much what you demand from them is what you're going to get. We just had to go in there and reestablish the fact that when we're catching the football that we're knifing and getting upfield. You know, that's first and foremost, and, you know, trying to make big runs and, you know, running laterally and things like that it doesn't give us our best chance. So Trey was really fortunate to have that opportunity to put that on display for us last week, and, you know, and he's really taken that personal, as well as everybody within the room, as far as, you know, catching and getting upfield. So the more we do that, the better. And I think they're realizing that too, an experience for those guys as well. You know, it's still a very young room, you know, so they're still trying to find their way and understand, you know, what works best for them. And last week was a good week for them.
David and then Justin.
Bobby, at times when Noah has missed your guys, he's missed behind them. What's your teaching technique for them to try to make those types of catches where the ball is not necessarily on them and they have to reach back across their body to try to catch it?
Yeah, we gotta do a great job at adjusting to all balls that are thrown, and naturally you want to always talk to the receivers about attacking the football. So being able to come back through a body, trying to get a PI and a catch is something that we work on. It's hard to simulate that in practice, obviously just with bodies being around. So the only real experience they get from that is within the game. And it's something that we just got to continue to work on. The more that we get the ball up and down to the guys on the perimeter, the more opportunities they'll get to be able to throw guys through, come back, and make aggressive catches to the football. And, Noah's doing a great job of giving us opportunities out there, and we just got to keep coming up with them.
And you as the wide receiver coach, were the routes better? They looked better Saturday. Were they better than they've been maybe in other games?
I hope so. I hope so. It's always a work in progress in that field, and just really trying to. You heard Luke mention it, trying to take the teaching from the practice field to the game. Everybody gets more excited naturally in a game, and so if you're not used to, putting yourself in that mind state every single time that you're running those routes, you could tend to get loose with technique. So I'm constantly trying to drill them just, the mentality when they're working on it, when we're just doing routes on air, even when we're doing walkthroughs, just the small details of, working on the break steps and, the steps at the top of the route, being efficient. All those things I just keep trying to hammer to them for when they're getting into the game situations. They're very comfortable, and it really just becomes second nature to them. They don't have to overthink it. It's just a reaction. So, it's tough. They naturally want to make plays, and they're straining to make plays, but they need to understand that technique wins.
Justin and Brian.
So Josh, this year we've seen a lot of different looks and formations for you guys on the defensive side of the ball, but you guys have been successful every step of the way, top 10 nationally. What do you think has worked for you guys this season?
Yeah, first and foremost, what makes you great on defense is beyond having good players, but is playing with red line, playing with effort. And I think that that's something from day one, that from the top down from Coach Brennan and Coach Gonzalez, what we wanted to establish was a defense that plays with tremendous effort, uncommon effort. So you have to train that way. And that's why we challenge them at practice every single day to train that way, because then on game day, just trust your training and play the way you've trained all the time. So I think that the first and foremost, it always starts with that, the physicality, the effort that we want to play with. And I think a large credit goes to Coach G and the way he schemes stuff up. I mean, that's why one of the reasons why he's been successful. It starts with that effort, but then he's also, like a mastermind with the way he dials some stuff up, and then the players being able to execute it. From day one, they came in, and to be able to do as much as we're doing is credit to not only the coaching staff installing it, but also the players being willing to come in for the in-between, the extra, the unrequired, and get extra time meeting. And so it's tremendously the credit for them to put in the work early, because then on game day, you just get to see them play fast. We still have a lot of stuff to work on. Like, you talk about us not allowing a passing touchdown, where, well, shoot, why have we allowed a rushing? So to say that it's been all good all the way, we still got a lot to improve on. And there's a tremendous challenge this week that we're excited to attack.
And Bobby, what do you think about this challenge against BYU and their defense and the guys they have in the secondary as well?
This is a great football team. They've been good for a long time. You heard Coach Bringuel talk about culture. They're probably one of the best within our conference. So we need to be able to match culture with them and just, play our game. I think that's extremely important for us offensively, is to play with confidence, play fast. As far as their personnel, they're going to be good. They got an experienced back end. They have some speed. So it's going to be a fun game with that. I think they're very confident as well. So, we got to be able to, like I said, be settled, play our game, take advantage of the opportunities that we get, and just continue to just keep coming back for more when it doesn't hit. Just keep working and keep pushing. And that's going to be the biggest thing, being able to match their effort.
Brian and then Michael.
Josh, in regard to the usage at the linebackers, considering that there's been times with 2, as many as 4, even a time with 5, do these guys all have to learn, like, all 5 of those positions, or do you have, like, ones that you specifically are trying to limit what they need to know?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of it. One, we teach everything conceptually, so you understand concept rather than just understanding, well, if he says this, my role is this, and you look at it through a closed lens, well, then you can't do as much. But when you teach everything from a conceptual level and from the top down, you have a great teaching progression, because coaches are just great teachers. And when you have a great teaching progression, then you can do these things. And for us, it's shoot, it's the same stuff. It's just X's on a chalkboard, different bodies. So if you understand how it all comes together, you can do a lot of fun stuff. And then personnel-wise, you have to understand your players as well. How much can your players take? And we talk about it. We have a elite group of young men that are not just great players, but want to put in the extra time and are naturally pretty smart. So we can do a lot more because you never want to do too much that you're slowing them down. Coaches don't win games. Players win games. Players win games. So it's our job to put them in the best position to fly around and make plays, but without slowing them down. So I've been fortunate that we've had a lot of guys that can take on that challenge, and we'll continue to do that.
Michael and Jason.
One question for you, sort of similar topics. Myron Robinson had kind of a wild moment in that game where he had the chase down sack. What is your assessment of how he's coming along and what his upside looks
Yeah,
like?
it's been a lot of fun because, Bobby talked about it. It's the best players play. And, and for me, it doesn't matter if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, best players that play. And that's why you see, for certain calls, it may happen that 2 linebackers on the field, 4 whatever it is, best players play in any particular circumstance against any particular team. So for Myron to show stuff that he's been developing and continuing to do on the practice field, now you just got to see it on the grass on a Saturday. So I'm just excited for him to say, good, I had some success. How do I have more? And it's by doubling down on your process. Well, shoot, you knew what to do and how to do it, so you got to play fast. When you know what to do and how to do it and you just play fast, good things happen, right? And then it's all the stuff that he's done for 18 years, making plays at the high school level and all that. Shoot, it's just guys are a little bit bigger, faster, stronger, but just like you're getting bigger, faster, stronger. So I'm excited for him to continue to attack his development on and off the field and keep on developing and see that for a long time here in Tucson.
For Bobby, another freshman, Gio Richardson, had that awesome catch in the game, and I think Brent was talking about how maybe there was a couple opportunities earlier, maybe in that game or in the season, or deep balls where he didn't come down with it. How would you assess maybe what he learned from those experiences, or just how he's growing to be able to make that play?
That's the biggest piece, the growing part. We always got to consider that and understand exactly where these players are. Gio got here in January. So we put a lot of pressure naturally in practice to try to get them prepared for the game situations. It's very difficult to simulate. In the same breath, you need to breathe confidence within them as well. So very proud of his progress, his development, his ability to be able to understand that he needs to continue to get better, and there's ways to get better, and how we do that is watching more film, working the technique, still continuing to talk through things, but also putting him in that situation to respond when mistakes are made and not just quitting on them. And so I think that's a big deal that what we do here at the University of Arizona is really believe in our players. We trust our evaluation. And then in return, we're going to continue to give them their opportunities that they need. And eventually it's going to click to where it's, you don't have those mistakes anymore. So I'm very happy with where he's at. He's going to continue to get coached extremely hard by me, only because I understand his ceiling and we're nowhere even close to that. So I'm excited that he's able to take that type of coaching, and he is still showing up knowing that he wants to continue to get better.
Jason and David.
For Josh, bring up numbers, like you say, hey guys, we have a top 25 defense, or we haven't allowed a passing touch. Like, does that stuff come up to the players, or is it something they kind of know?
Yeah, I think it's something that you talk about because it's out there. Like to think that, that it's not heard of, or yeah, we talk about it and we understand, but the biggest thing is making the focus on, that's just the result. Well, why did that result happen? It's because of, one, we got talented players, and two, because of how hard they're working. Understand, the result doesn't just happen. You don't just show up, walk into a game, and play well on defense. You don't do that. That's just not how life works. When you put in time and you work hard, you give yourself a chance to be successful. Right? It doesn't even guarantee success, but we refocus that energy into, well, understand why we had a shot to be good. Why have we done that? That's why attacking every day at practice. So it's an exciting opportunity to challenge it and say, okay, so we're top 10. Why aren't we top 5? Attack it. Get another opportunity to move up, because there's still plenty of stuff that we can improve on. If they gain a dang yard, there's a reason. So we're excited for that opportunity, and it's just the refocusing of not just the result, but going back to your process and why have we had to have some success.
And then for Bobby, how would you describe the dynamic between the older receivers and the younger receivers?
Our room is fun, man. I couldn't ask for a better room right now, really. We have a unique blend of veterans that are transfers, but they've really bought into what we have been talking about since they've been here. And then they also understand that they've been through some things in their career, And so their ability to be able to pull these freshmen aside and have side conversation that is very just open, honest, and real, I think really helps the development piece for them. And in return, it helps me as well because they actually get at these kids tough. You know, they're coaching them as hard as I'm coaching the older guys. And so that's fun to watch. And it's fun to hear a lot of the same terms that come up that I'm using to speak to them collectively and them understanding. You know, when you talk to other people, that it puts you in a place of accountability to where now you're reflecting on your own self. And that's what Luke was saying up here earlier. He's like, he really enjoys that because if he was pulling Mizell to the side and he's talking about something, he's immediately thinking about how he's handling that in the same situation. So it's fun to see. It's forever going to be a process for these guys. And I love the fact that the older guys understand that there's still a lot of room for growth for them as well. And so, you know, it's fun to watch.
David and then Troy.
Josh, Riley Wilson carries himself as a captain, but obviously he was a transfer in, he missed time in the fall. Can he have that voice on this defense? Does he have that type of voice on this defense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that in any locker room, this is, you know, I've been fortunate to be a player and then coached at universities. One, the starters guys that are really good naturally just have a voice. That's how locker rooms work. But what's really cool about the culture is it's the guys that work hard, the guys that put in the work every single day. And for him to be the guy that showed up to work every single day, supportive of his teammates, supportive of himself, whether it's young, old, he's a tremendous leader because of his actions and what he does, not just what he says first and foremost, it's what he does. So for him, with how hard he works, there's a ton of respect within the team for him. And there's a ton of respect for all the guys on the team that are willing to put in that extra, the in-between, the unrequired. Because that's what's cool. When you have a culture that respects work ethic, respects toughness, and those type of things, good things come from that. And we got a great culture that is supporting those things and is promoting those things. So guys like Riley that play with red line and attack every day that way, yeah, they absolutely are. So it's exciting for him to be a leader on this team and take on every challenge. And so I'm excited for him and a lot of the guys in the room.
And Bobby, what makes Trey such a good target in the red zone?
You know, obviously his length, his size. I also think when we talk about quality over quantity for Trey really bought into that and understanding that we're going to put him in a good position. And he believes in that. So he knows when his targets come that we have ultimate confidence within him and he has it within himself and that he is going to go and make a play no matter what the circumstances are. And so he's really, really bought into that. But, you know, Trey's strong. You know, he's smart. You know, he plays fast. He has a bunch of confidence. And so, and he's young still, too. You know, to remind everybody that he is still barely getting started in this process for him. But he's also buying into the mentality in the room, which is, you know, every opportunity, don't waste a snap. You know, be grateful. You know, play with gratitude, you know, love your teammates and play for your team. And he's really bought into that.
Troy and Justin.
When you have a week like this with BYU, with the potential rain, physical game, potentially rain, how do you go about mentally preparing for that, and how do you prepare for potentially having that type of weather as a receiving corps?
We don't think about the weather, honestly. Like, you know, obviously if it comes to the point to where we know it's going to rain, you know, we'll do some wet ball drills, things like that, just in preparation for, you know, obviously putting the ball on your body, overemphasizing eyes to tuck, overemphasizing, you know, just doing whatever you need to do to get the ball to your body. We'll respond if it rains. There's no doubt about that. You know, there's things you can do, take the gloves off, you know, just all the extra focus. And, you know, just as far as the opponent, it's the same every week for us. You know, it's all about our process and what we're doing, not necessarily what's coming in here, but how are we going to prepare to put our best foot forward for, you know, any weather, you know, any opponent at any time. And, you know, it's so cliche to say that, but that's really all you can really focus on. You know, if we get the call to where we know it's going to for sure rain and it's going to, you know, come down and we'll dunk a couple balls in there and we'll start to, making sure we're putting the ball on our bodies and getting prepared for that type of game.
Our last two will be Justin.
So you guys have referenced culture regarding BYU. How would you describe the culture that you guys have here this season? What's going on right now with Brent Brennan and how you guys are operating?
Want to start?
Yeah, I think that Coach Brennan has had unbelievable success over the years at different universities because of who he is as a person and the culture that he cultivates within his team. That's how you build programs, is not just year to year, but a culture that develops over time. And I think that you're starting to really see that blossom, and to have players that are truly bought into that and trust the coaching staff. I think it's a credit to first and foremost Coach Brennan, but then the staff that he's assembled beyond. The players trust us, and they know that we care about them, and they know that we have the team and their best interests at heart. So now once you build that trust, they lean into it. So when you challenge them and they ask, and you challenge them to rise up, they rise up. And when you have obstacles and as a coach, you attack it head on, the players get to see that modeled behavior, then they do the same. So it's a unbelievable thing, and it's something that you are always working at every single day. It's deliberate practice. When we're talking about linebacker play, hey, we're going to deliberately focus on taking on blocks. Well, culturally, we're going to deliberately focus on how can we construct things and challenge our team to develop that chemistry, that bond, that culture that we want. So it's a constant thing that you're working on every single day. It doesn't just happen. It's deliberate. And I think Coach Brennan does an unbelievable job scaffolding our schedule, our structure, everything from the top down is about building that every single day. So I think it's something that he is unbelievably elite at and does a great job. That's why he's had success every place he's been.
And Bobby, considering you were here last year, how would you describe maybe the differences between the culture last year and this year?
Yeah, I think it's the people buying in. Coach Brennan did a great job of setting red line as the standard for everything we do and actually following through with that. It's easy to say it. It's more difficult to walk it in every single facet of this game. Recruiting, off season, acquiring talent, evaluation, like all these things that make what this program is right now is really based off the red line, which is, obviously just making sure that we are pushing that in everything that we do. So I'm really proud to be a part of it, proud to see the changes that he's made from the off season coming into the new season, accepting 40-something more players in on this football team that are brand new, and then driving the leadership through coaches, starting with the head coach and everybody else down into the players, and to the point to where, like Coach Bringuel says, like they trust us and they believe us because we're not just talking about it, but, we're walking this walk and we're walking it with them. And it's never going to be perfect, but it's something that you got to make a decision every single day. And he does a great job of talking about that when he gets the opportunities to really drive that home with the players, letting them know it's a decision that you make every single day you wake up. And you really have that choice. And everybody won't make it. And then also standing on the table for the ones that don't make it, and him having to make the hard decision and letting some guys go. And, and getting some guys to let them know exactly where they stand. And I think for every young man and every person, every coach, everybody who's a part of it, that's really what you want. You really want to know where you stand, and you want people to be honest and truthful with you, and Coach has done a great job with that.
So this one's for Josh. Confidence is always one of those kind of chicken and egg things, like how do you have it if you haven't had success? Or maybe you needed to have success. Anyway, coming into the year, this defense had not been nearly as good as it is now. What did Danny do, or what does Danny do to instill that sense of belief and confidence in the guys to perform at the way that they have?
Yeah, I think that it's hard to, until you see it happen, it's hard, just like with whatever it is, culture, a scheme, different things, until you've actually lived it and had the success, there's still that little bit in the back of your head, like, does it work? Is it going to be? So there is that little bit there. Should I've been part of it for also, like, I know it works. But I think it goes back to how we practice. And that's why I think the alignment with Coach Brennan, the way he wants us to practice fast, practice physical, or that's how we want to practice. That's how we want to attack everything. So I think that it goes back to, because your process and how you train. Because on game day, you just have to fall back and trust your training. That's what it comes down to. So it's nothing magical that happened, but it's just every day attacking the work every single day, understanding that we've put them and stressed them out in these positions all spring ball, all summer, all fall camp. You've been in those positions, so on game day, there may be some different things, but you fall back on the things that have made us great, the red line, the effort, those type of things, you're going to be successful. So I think that it goes back to that mentality, maybe not the sense of confidence, in the sense of, shoot, I have worked for this, I've earned the right to go out and play the kind of football that we want to play, because I put in that work early on. So once you earn the right to do that, on game day, you're just playing. You just play football. On game day, that's the player's day. Coaches, you coach throughout the offseason, you coach throughout practice throughout the week. On game day, we'll make adjustments, but shoot, let the players play, and because players win games.
Thank you, everybody.